Hey there, party people! Welcome to Strawberin0's house, hold thing of channel, YouTube. Today I am reacting to Warhammer 40k Mechanicus review by MandaloreGaming. Like I said, after reacting to all of that Warhammer lore from Bricky, which was a great introduction into this universe that I never knew anything about, I decided I actually wanna see some games based on IP, see how they brought this world to life, basically. And Mandalore has a bunch of reviews of them. I know that they are very diverse. I know that there are like third-person camera shooters, first-person camera shooters, like more strategic games, so more akin to the tabletop. Actually, there's quite a lot there, and I just wanna see how they managed to bring all of those cool concepts Bricky talked about to life. And from what I remember, Mandalore is deep into the Warhammer 40k rabbit hole, so who better to talk about, Warhammer 40k video games, the perfect like mashup. And yeah, I will just let him do the talking for now. Also, gorgeous animation, really fucking cool. That's a really kick-ass intro. I really fucking love it. The animation is so charming. I wonder who did that. That's
Welcome back
really
to Warhammer. There are no Space Marines this time around. Instead, this game has you playing as the Adeptus Mechanicus.
I mentioned doing my reaction to what I can already say it's one of those like more strategic games from those that I mentioned. I mentioned doing Bricky's like breakdown of like all of the different factions. On the side of Imperium of Man, actually Adeptus Mechanicus sounded the coolest to me. I think like doing their section, I was the most like hyped up, listening to like what the Adeptus Mechanicus is all about. And I fucking love their designs. They are like those robed figures, but they have all of this mechanical shit. Like overabundance of needless mechanical parts just sticking all over the place from their bodies. That's so cool. I really dig those designs. And from what I see here, they are fighting the necro something. The like Egyptian robot Terminator dudes who got their immortality, which like Bricky literally mentioned in his second video about the Xeno races. There was an event where Adeptus Mechanicus opened like their fucking tombs and basically awakened them. And this led to the situation that the universe is now in, where they're kinda back because they were hibernating inside those tombs, from what I remember. So I'm assuming this game has to do something with that event, but I don't know. I also don't know how canon the games are. They're officially licensed, but like I don't know what kind of license holders they are, because some people will just give their license out to fucking anyone willing to pay the fee, so
And you're on a field trip / home invasion to rob the Necrons. That may have sounded like gibberish. The Mechanicus have been in some games, usually with the Imperial Guard, but they're not the Imperial Guard. Okay, picture Inspector Gadget, but he's a monk and he fixes your car. Okay, I'll get into the lore. I'm going to assume you know about the Imperium of Man and all that. The Mechanicus works with the Guard, but they're not part of the Guard. Like, picture Amazon. Imagine it has a giant government contract. Not only do they make and sell knickknacks and random stuff, they also make cars, tanks, guns, ships, and everything else needed to wage a war and also just run the economy in general. That's them, and there is no competition. They make most every gun and vehicle in the Imperial military, so their organization has a lot of sway. This is because when the Imperium was being founded on Earth, they already
Look at those fucking designs. I mean, like, how can you not find them the fucking coolest? I know Space Marines get all of the, you know, oh my god, they're so cool, they're literally me! But, like, Adeptus Mechanicus has that extra something, because they are more like normal dudes, but also have that special factor, you know.
had their own empire on Mars. They only joined up because their organization was given a ton of autonomy. It got challenged here and there, but we don't have time for those stories. So as virtually the only research and manufacturing center, they get up to stuff. Sometimes their experiments have questionable legality. No, they don't get bothered much. Let's say some smug commissar tries to tell on them for, say, making an AI. Well, they can just say, it's not an AI, there's a human brain in there. How do you know? I promise. Even if you manage to get them in trouble, they might start having manufacturing issues. And then they can't send you vehicles and weapons anymore. Then all your men get eaten by bugs.
Yeah, Bricky mentioned that in his breakdown. Like, you can't really fuck with Adeptus Mechanicus because they make all of your guns. And say you go to war with Adeptus Mechanicus, there's like a big civil war. And you go to war with Adeptus Mechanicus, like, they make all of your fucking guns and ammo from what I understand, and all of the vehicles. And they're really, really good at it. As soon as you start beef with them, you won't be receiving new supplies. So you better know how to fucking do maintenance on your gun forever.
Or demons or something, because this won't work without this. Okay, simple enough. Now, most of the best stuff is hoarded by the AdMech's private army. They're always looking to recover old technology or discover new ones. And there happens to be an ancient alien race with hyper-advanced technology and entire tombs of it. These are the Necrons. So what is a Necron? Well, they're Terminators in space who hate all life. At least they used to be. Now they have different dynasties and agendas, and they're basically undead space Egyptians. So that's fresh. Necrons have fancy things, the AdMech wants to touch all of it. Mechanicus is all about one of those expeditions. Of course, there's a conflict over how much should be preserved rather than destroyed. Those decisions will be up to you. There's no telling what's down there, so let's check it out.
One day, the crude biomass that you call a temple will wither, and you will beg my kind to save you. But I am already saved. For the machine is immortal.
Goes so hard. Everything the Adeptus Mechanicus says goes so fucking hard. Why wouldn't you reject, you know, your flesh for the certainty of steel? They have some ideas worth exploring, I think.
That's one hell of a title drop. For starters, this is a turn-based tactical game. There are many levels and mechanics of fighting the Necrons, but we'll hold off on all of that for now. Let's begin with the visuals. The game is sold at half the price of a AAA game, and it looks the part. If you've played other games in the genre, the texture work and detail...
Looks a little bit like XCOM. Yeah, even the sprint, you have this normal move and the sprint grid, I assume. I don't know if XCOM took that system from somewhere. I only really played XCOM with a gameplay like this. I'm assuming XCOM was inspired by something? Or was there old XCOM and new XCOM? I don't fucking remember at this point. I only played the two XCOM games when it comes to very meticulous single where you basically a single unit gets their turn every time, and you have cover systems and everybody's got unique abilities. I'm assuming this is what that is. I think I saw an icon to hide behind cover, so, and then you can, you know, shoot, and you pretty much roll the dice if you hit or not. So yeah, I only played XCOM 1 and 2 when it comes to games like that. I didn't really play anything older with systems like that, and this really like I said, this really kind of reminds me of XCOM with the grid.
I mean, isn't going to be the best thing you've ever seen. There's also a depth of field effect on zooming, which I would like if you could adjust it. I actually like the effect when it's subtle, but it's very aggressive here and there's no option for it, so having one would be ideal. I'd still say this game is punching above its weight when it comes to the budget. The use of fog, shadows, light, and reflections do help make up for the shortcomings. On a technical level, I'd still say it's good, especially for the genre. There's been a few better, but a lot more worse, especially when this is being carried by some fantastic art direction. What the environmental detail lacks is made up for by the character models. If anything, the relative minimalism does help accent them. Whenever I saw Tech Priest, I always wondered what all that machinery was even for. I mean, where do you start?
That's what I said. I said at the beginning, this is so fucking needlessly excessive. Like, what do some of these things even do? They look like you strapped more metal to yourself, so you could make yourself look cooler.
Whenever I saw Tech Priest, I always wondered what all that machinery was even for. I mean, where do you start? Well, now you'll know, because every class upgrade, piece of war gear, weapon, equipment, it's all modeled. You can end up with very
That's cool. That's fucking cool. You can, like, customize, you can actually customize your dude and it shows up all over his armor. That's fucking dope.
different looking soldiers, and pushed even further by coloring them in. Then you throw in all the troop types you can bring into a fight.
That's
They're not
dope
as customizable,
as
but they do change.
It's almost like you were, collecting your army in real life, I guess, with the coloring and everything. But you a step further by literally customizing what they have with themselves. Like, you cannot really do that with real models used for the tabletop. From what I understand, I don't have, like, on-hands experience. That's a neat way to translate that into a video game, I think.
Visually when they upgrade. It's a nice detail to have. The look of this game is very appealing to me. I think it could be because the detailed and colorful models and the relatively bland surface reminds me a lot of the tabletop game. I mean, technically you actually are playing a tabletop game within a video game. Except when your troops die in-game, they die for real in the game. Wait, the Necrons have minis too, and you can steal them. Okay, we're getting too meta here. The 2D artwork is also great and horrific. The Necrons have some cool models too. However, the visuals aren't the real star of Mechanicus. It's the sound. What do Apple's store Jawas sound like? Computer sounds, I guess. Yeah, that's about right. Holy shit. I wasn't expecting this.
Like, every minute of this video I feel vindicated, is I think the word, for saying that Adeptus Mechanicus are fucking cool, because this is fucking cool, okay?
Not only is this an incredibly creative way to not have as much voice acting, it sounds phenomenal. You still have more traditional stuff too.
I have watched you since you dared breach the orbit of our world.
Then you just have the regular sounds of the game.
That's a pretty cool soundscape.
This isn't even the main draw, neither was the voice acting. It's the music.
Oh, there we go. I was waiting for some, like, chorus or chanting. There we fucking go. Now we're at home. and it's mixed in with all of those like very like modern sounds, like instruments and effects. That previous song sounded really fucking cool.
What can I say? No one told me about the soundtrack. It's the most electronic a Warhammer game has gone, and appropriately so. It's very industrial, so the melodies remind me of engines revving. The vocals can change from European medieval monks to like Egyptian priests chanting. It's like you're playing with the big boys now from the Prince of Egypt, but the big boy's a Necron Lord. Most electronic music has a bass drop. Mechanicus has a pipe organ. It's a supremely creative soundtrack, and it's one of my favorite Warhammer OSTs.
It does sound very unique and very fitting to like to what's happening on screen and like the themes behind both of these factions featured in the game. That's really cool. I love when sound and music design do a lot of heavy lifting for your set pieces and like in general things in video games. Like holy shit, having a diverse soundscape that complements the visuals can go a long way. Like it can literally take a moment that's good or somewhat good right into fucking greatness. A lot of new video games think they just need pretty graphics and that's it. Like you need a soundscape to complement that.
Now. And this is from a franchise with a lot of competition in a music genre that I'm not that into. It's just that good. So overall, the presentation is outstanding. The aggressive depth of field is my only real style issue with it. Besides that, there's an occasional stutter after taking an action, and I think that's an engine thing. It only seemed to be noticeable in some particular maps. Beyond that, it's very stable, and trust me, I've played worse. Speaking of playing, let's talk about that. You can divide the game up into 3 separate sections. The first is tomb exploring. There are several kinds of rooms, and different missions have different layouts. If you've played something like Darkest Dungeon, this will be familiar to you, except you can see where you're going. With each new room you go to, an awakening meter will increase. This represents the tomb activating more stuff as they become aware of you, and you don't want to wait.
That's different and a very, very cool like gameplay mechanic.
Necrons. Starting off, it's not a huge deal. However, the more you explore around, the more horrific this meter will become. Ignoring the objectives to loot means deadlier fights. It's still worth looking around because there are treasure rooms that could give you resources and equipment, as long as you pick the right symbol. But the symbols are consistent, it doesn't stay a random guessing game. When you pick a safe one enough, it even gets highlighted later. Then you have the event rooms, and all sorts of things can happen in here. This is where it becomes pure guesswork. Usually it's do you want to destroy a weird thing, or try to study it. You might wake the Necrons up more, then again you might get some help in an upcoming battle. Now some of you might be going, oh, the game's ruined, I hate that shit. Well, I have good news. There's an option to have symbols appear for the results, so it will no longer be completely random. In fact, while there are standard difficulties, this game is absurdly customizable. Nearly every mechanic in
That's always good. You should tailor... the game should just allow it to tailor to your experience and your need for difficulty. I just recently listened to a podcast about Final Fantasy 16. I have not played the game yet. I am still like fighting my backlog and some other Final Fantasy titles first before I move on to 16. But I heard that the game, if you're into character action games like DMC, like I am, the game is laughably easy and it will not allow you to pick a higher difficulty until you beat the whole thing, and then when you beat the entire game, then you can play a higher difficulty, and then if you beat it again, you unlock like I think an even higher difficulty or some challenge mode or something. And that's just not fucking good enough. There should be like 4 or 5 difficulties right off the bat. And if somebody finds, easy and normal too easy, they can jump into like hard or very hard. And then if you are like, I need to tweak this further, This is too difficult for me. You can drop the difficulty to like fit your experience. There is nothing more game ruining other than like a game being too easy or too hard. Obviously, there's different ways to do difficulty. You can go the Dark Souls route where the difficulty is always set in stone, but you can do certain things in game to actually tweak certain encounters, like picking the right class, investing into the right skill points, or just straight up calling in help through multiplayer options, you know. But like, if you have difficulty selection at all in your game, it should be as in-depth as humanly possible, because it's always like the best return on investment. It also very much helps with replayability.
Stat can be adjusted or flat out turned off. You can adjust it to be a walk in the park or the hell crawl that you crave. So just keep that in mind. I'll be coming back to this dungeon part, but I'm gonna move on for now. The second part is the battle.
And yeah, that difficulty customization, like in this game, where you can literally make the game almost unplayable by putting it on highest. That's very fucking cool, because like I said, there is so much room for experimentation and replayability there.
Slap your troops down in a small area and begin the fight. You may be surprised if you thought this was going to be a copy of another game. There's no such thing as accuracy. If the weapon's in range, it hits. No cover system either. You're either out of range or completely obstructed behind something big.
Oh, so there is no okay, so he called me out. I thought it's gonna be like XCOM. It's not. The cover system and your chance to hit play a big ass fucking role in XCOM. So yeah, this completely changes the dynamic of this game that I was thinking about.
Line of sight and weapon range are the name of the game. You can't sit around in Overwatch either, your tech priests don't know how. They don't want to sit around, they want to touch all everything. There's only one who can Overwatch, and you will learn to hate him. The only units dodging shots will be your own, and only through a special class upgrade. Accuracy may not be an unknown factor, but there are several others. You can gauge your own weapon range, but not that of the enemy, or their potential damage output or abilities. Most importantly, you don't know how much health they have. There are two damage types, physical and energy, with armor for both. High armor can completely absorb an attack. This means without intel, you could be firing off useless shots and not even know it. So you could send out a servo skull to find out the stats, and then it gets stuck on cooldown for a few turns, and the skull can do something else. Collect cognition points. Cognition point taking, CPT, is a mechanical activity vital to your success. Most tech priest weapons, and especially the more powerful ones, require cognition points to fire. A lot of active skills use it too. Here's the thing, as long as it's off cooldown, a tech priest can use as many skills and weapons in a turn as they want. If you have points to spend, you can do it. If you have a point, you can sprint outside of normal move range. Once again though, you can keep doing this. So if you have the points for it, you can just run all over the map. This is your lifeblood. The easiest way to get it is grabbing it off map objects. These refresh when a turn phase is over.
This game couldn't be more... Like, when I look at this grid, I literally said it. I thought it's normal movement and sprint, like in XCOM. So if you move on the orange, you cannot attack after moving. And if you move on blues, you can attack after moving. But it's literally additional movement if you have those cognition points. This game couldn't have been more in its interface like XCOM, while not being XCOM at all in mechanics. What the fuck? This fooled me so badly. What the hell?
Over. You can find special war gear to get it, you can get it through skills. As the game goes on, you find more sophisticated ways to keep that meter filled. Even defeated enemies have some on the body. So with careful strategy, you can keep that meter in balance. Instead of just shooting a robot, you can have a Radio Shack man stand next to it, so when he gets shot, he can collect the point. Then again, maybe you should just try to get rid of the bodies immediately. They're Necrons. Yeah, that was a bad idea. Do you try to get points, or do you leave a dangerous body intact? You decide. Wake me up! Of course, if you crit them the first time, they're not coming back. I admit I didn't like the system too much at first, it felt strange. But as I got more points and more equipment, I really started to appreciate it. Immediately firing off your most powerful weapon often isn't the best course to take. Carefully planning your attacks and skills will get you the best outcome. Like the dungeons, there's opportunity here as well. Remember the awakening meter? Well, it's here too and doesn't stop. Every time you go to a new turn phase, the bar fills up. In battle, there are sometimes Necron computers that you can break to reduce it, which means wasting attacks that you could have used on a Tomb King. At the same time, you can have a tech priest scan it for money. You can't do that if the computer's already blown up. Do you go for the money, or shoot at range before the meter gets higher? You have to balance all of this out, and at the same time, expect the unexpected. This is a tomb. You think you have it all figured out, then suddenly a giant platform raises and you have new problems. An eye needs to be kept in the platforms that move around. There are little turret traps, the big kids' meal turret traps. Sarcophagi that spit out more angry skeletons at the worst possible time. You might make a risky power play only to find out that it was the worst possible thing you could have done. The early game can be brutal, and that's not the worst of it. Sometimes a battle will have an objective like escape. There's an angry horde coming for you, get all your boys to this square. So you barely make it and surprise, now you need to wipe them out. All of them. Once again, this only happens some of the time. Brutal. This is something I hated starting out, but it made more sense later. For now I want to move on to the third part of the game so I could go back through it with proper context. This is the downtime aboard your ship when you manage your army. When you complete a mission, you get all kinds of rewards, including new equipment. There are tons of different weapons and equipment pieces. You likely won't see every one in a single playthrough. This extends to troops and their upgrades. The currency, called Blackstone, can be used to spec out your priests. Each tree will unlock 4 pieces of special class armor, but other than that you could equip anything on anyone. You just need enough slots to fit the equipment, and you get more as you level up. These guys can get way up there too, they could multi-class right from the get-go. The other use of cash is to take regular troops with you on missions. Your basic servitors will be free, but more advanced troops will start costing. You have unlimited troops in storage, so if you do plan permadeath, only priests don't come back if they die. That hurts a lot, but you can throw more troops at them. You can build around this, one of the classes is all about buffing lesser soldiers. As for the missions, you choose which ones you do and when. Mechanicus has multiple endings based on what you do or don't do. Be careful. This is also how you get most of your equipment, and it is semi-random in each playthrough. The Mechanicus has many needs, but you may not be able to fill them all. Oh right, that awakening meter is global. The more each tomb wakes up, the more the whole damn planet wakes up. You don't want that, so taking optional fights to reduce the awakening may be worth your time. There are many more
kinda reminds me of the, like that meter you had in XCOM, where basically it filling up meant you go bye-bye, game over. I always had kinda mixed feelings about mechanics like that. Depends on how they're integrated, and I wouldn't really know about this one unless I just tried the game, so...
Smaller mechanics of this game, but those are the important ones for context. Now that you have that, I can go back through it and not sound like I'm speaking hieroglyphics. Okay, let's go again. So you get your cohort all picked out for a mission. You also pick your canicles, your once per mission powers, but I won't get into those. We're back to the dungeon. Overall, I think this part is good. Exploration is risky, but also very rewarding. Finding a powerful weapon or special piece of equipment is just as permanent as having an awakening meter go up. It has solid balance in that regard. I'm actually one of those people who doesn't mind the random events. I'd rather have this over the game just telling me the answer, but I do see where an improvement can be made. I wish events had the blue option. In the game FTL, you go around exploring with a crew in a spaceship, and random events pop up there too. Outcomes aren't guaranteed. Unless you have the blue option. This is always a good result. You only get them if you have a special piece of equipment or a crew member for the job. The more diverse your crew and equipment, the better chance you have for solving one of these problems. You can see where I'm going with this. With so many weapons and pieces of equipment and troop types, something like this would be perfect in Mechanicus. Maybe you only get the perks of flame option if you have a flamethrower. Or how about a Castellan robot in your party? That is a flamer. They're also known for their stable machine spirits. It would be a nice addition. It could also lead into a more balanced party, which I'll get into more soon. The combat in Mechanicus is great. The core to your victories will be tactical thinking, but unexpected things happen just often enough to keep it interesting. Again, the presentation is exceptional. The impact and sound of weapons, the physics of how bodies fly around, everything about it makes combat satisfying. The points and class system means you have a ton of options for playstyles. For example, the troop buff class I mentioned. Troop attacks cost no points, which is huge. The catch is that deploying them in each battle costs points. More advanced troops will cost more. So while they are effective, they require setup, which you could have been attacking with. Until you have your secular class in the field. He can call in the most dangerous units anywhere for 1 point. He can use a skull to buff troops. This man can order a firing line. You can take 2 of these guys in a squad of troops and be fine. There's also a medic class. They can heal and cleanse and wait. That claw can heal a bunch of health and anyone can put it on? If your priests are hurt at the end of a mission, it costs money to repair them, so everyone should have this. There's a skill reducing a weapon attack by 2 points, and it's right at the top. I can easily multi-class everyone into this. Now everyone can have a ridiculous AoE weapon. The first shot costs the same as a normal weapon now. The final skill of a melee class sacrifices 2 ranged weapons for that. So, axe or
That's a cool as fucking attack.
I think this game needs some class rebalancing and maybe some item restrictions. Because once you're past the early game, the challenge could get easy, and fast, even on the hardest difficulty. And I'm not saying everything should be restricted. Maybe just the highest level of specialized equipment. Just enough so the medic class isn't virtually useless and really situational, because everyone could be a medic who heals nearly as much. I'd love to use a pure melee class if it had some neat abilities. Maybe they could have a skill to instantly blow up a Necron computer in range but still get the money from it. Something similar to the CP scanner. Naturally, there are special options to restrict things more. Maybe they could be turned on by default in a
I hate when there is a currency or like point system in game and the abbreviation is CP. Call of Duty is the worst in that regard because in Warzone and I think the multiplayer too, you get combat points or whatever, and it just says CP on the coin, and there are like event banners where it will just say earn CP, and everybody is like, dude, do you not see how fucking bad that looks? After your first day on the internet, you will immediately know that the abbreviation CP is pretty fucking bad, so you shouldn't use it in your game, especially as main premium currency.
Praise the Omnissiah difficulty or something like that. One part, one priest is an interesting way to play, but I still like to multi-class. At bare minimum, I think some class things need to be rearranged, because there is great stuff here. As it is, I just find it too easy to make a god class once you know what you're doing. I did try to avoid it because I like having a varied squad. I only wish the choices seemed more natural and synergetic. As is, it feels like gimping myself. I don't know, maybe the fumes are getting to me. Wait, no, no! It's like every game is happening at once. I don't know how to— is that Linus Tech Priest?
Insects. This galaxy is infested with vermin.
Moving on. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay is still tons of fun. There's a lot of joy in setting up your attacks and moves, even if you do want to make the most OP build possible. The core of the gameplay works, and it works wonderfully. It just needs some adjustment. There's also the bug, and I call it the bug because it's the only one I noticed, but boy. A few of the beam weapons claim that they cannot hit a thing in front of them, and I know it's not just me. Sometimes it won't say it's locked to a target no matter what. Sometimes it won't aim well or fire across a gap. Sometimes it will refuse to aim at all, and sometimes it's like the gun's not even on. Usually I could fix it by just moving a space, but this is a disaster waiting to happen. And by that I mean someone will start breathing really hard and typing really fast. Probably me. It never happens with the guns that can fire through walls. I'm guessing the others see objects so they shouldn't. Another issue is I think they need a few more map layouts. There are some great unique maps, but by the end you'll notice some repeating, especially if you play with a higher difficulty for more fights. And that marks the end of my big issues with the game. Looking at the footage editing this, I actually want to go play it some more, but I'll talk about the story too. It's shockingly engaging. The premise is simple: defeat the Necrons, and what should we do with them when we do? It's the exceptional dialogue writing that makes it stand out. The conflict over Pulverize or Preserve is well developed, and there are good arguments on either side. The more you learn about the Necrons, the more parallels you see. The presentation gives the sense of weight to everything. Like, what happens here will have gigantic ramifications. It's rare to see this scale of importance in the big picture when it comes to a 40k game, but here it is. And it's being delivered by really engaging dialogue. I've also been playing with the Heretic DLC, so I should explain what that's all about. As the name might imply, you fight Rogue Mechanicus. There are new weapons, new equipment, and a new class to fiddle with. You also get 2 new types of troops, though I never found much of a use for the Infiltrator, which is a shame because I love the look of it. The new class I'd put firmly in the needs work category. The Zenerite class is sort of a flagellant type. The more health they lose, the deadlier their crit potential, and they have some minor heals of their own. This culminates in them being able to resurrect once per battle. I typically love playing these kinds of classes, but this one didn't gel for me. It could have been more appealing if it had some bonuses to the new weapons. It does not. I don't know what to make of it. But hey, there are heretics to kill. They're spread across new map types aboard your ship, and they look great. Unfortunately, there are only 5 new missions. They're spread out in parallel with the main campaign, so you can't go through it all at once. There's also no exploring section. This time you get to choose your own adventure. It determines your place on the map, your objective, and a few other things. So the missions can be slightly different on replay. They do make for challenging enemies since they have the same weapons and resources as you do, and their inclusion does help break up the constant reconfiguring pyramids in the game. The writing is as good as ever, and the new missions are welcome, there's just not much of it. Its biggest impact will likely be the new goodies spread across the main campaign. I wouldn't call it bad. If you really like the game, it's probably worth the money. If you're on the fence or short on cash, you're not missing a ton by skipping it. It does have 9 minutes of new music. That could be worth it. Okay, let's wrap this up. Despite its flaws, this is a fantastic game. It's in my top 3 40k games for sure. It introduces the setting well and is a
Damn.
good candidate for someone's first 40k game. I highly recommend it if you like the genre. There could be something here for you even if
I guess I couldn't pick a better fucking, like, first 40k game review to pick. Apparently this one is also very good for beginners. So, maybe I will check it. Maybe I will check it out.
you don't. The devs have added things like free missions, and the game is coming to consoles soon, so I suspect there will be more to come from Mechanicus. Personally, I'd love to see the new ship tile sets used for a base ship defense mission set. I didn't mention the other game, I'm not starting now. Speaking of meters, this video has a timer on it. Inspired by a friend, I contacted the Polish Information Network to send a message to the devs. If it worked, the game should be more than half off on GOG from the link in the pinned comment. If not, well, would only be for a few days anyway.
The crossover into the Touch alternate universe.
Anyways, regardless of what you have it on, I do have a request. If you have it on Steam or some platform with a review system, and you liked it, go ahead and leave a positive review. I never asked for that, so why would I? As you may know, in the past few years there have been some stinky, borderline cash grab 40k games. It was to the point that I think the brand is tainted when it comes to video games now. The reviews let others like me who passed this by for so long know. This one isn't a dumpster fire. This one is good. Check it out. I'll see you next time for the fantasy game.
Summon the Elector Counts!
That animation at the beginning was dope as fuck. Let's see what Mandalore has to say in his little Q&A.
I wish someone told me that game was good earlier, but oh well. GeForce Now or Stadia? I don't really care, I have some paperweights in my drawer. If you want to do a non-joke review of something not a video game, what would it be? There are some tabletop games and roleplay systems that I'd kind of like to do that for, but that requires a very different setup, so who knows. Do you think we'll get a good 40k RTS game after that one game flopped? It's just speculating, but I don't see why not. As long as the buyers are there for it, I think they'll make something good again one day. They being developers, I don't know about Relic anymore. Ever heard of 40k Squad Command on DS and PSP? I did not until now. It looks like it might be one of those taint games I talked about. Could be fun, I have no clue. Do you plan to talk to developers while making a review of their game? If you mean like a collaboration, no. Most developers know what's wrong with their game but don't have unlimited time and money. Them responding in a video would mainly be, we wanted to do that, but we didn't have time. QA did catch that bug, but we couldn't recreate it no matter how hard we tried. Exciting stuff. I'll see you next time.
Kinda true. If you're a casual consumer, like literally you played a game and you noticed a bug repeating, or there was a significant problem that you could easily see, you should assume that the development team also saw the problem that you did and they just couldn't fix it. This doesn't apply to plot because some writers get stuck on a shitty idea for some reason. Forspoken is a good example. I don't know how that game actually came to be, why nobody came up to the developers and said this is a shit idea, why are you writing like this? But yeah, when it comes to in-game mechanics or like bugs, usually it's they just lack the resource to do the thing they really wanted to do, and that's the end of that, sadly. The fuck is this game? Okay, and that's everything MandaloreGaming had to say about Warhammer 40k Mechanicus. A very interesting game that I, at some point, honestly might check out because it looks right up my alley and supposedly it's great for beginners to like the games and the setting. So, and I already love Adeptus Mechanicus, so you know, not that big on Necrons, but you know that they seem completely fine. They're kinda unique. I think a lot of things in Warhammer 40k are very unique. And yeah, I think that's everything I had to say. If I forgot something, fuck it. Point it out in the comment, I will reply, we will get into an argument. Just kidding, I rarely get into arguments with you guys. And also, lately, there has been a lot of comments and a lot of, you know, discussing certain parts of my videos, so If you wanna ask something or point something out or recommend something, just drop a comment, no worries. Sometimes I don't reply only because comments repeat. A lot of people, for example, suggested me the Brick is Every Space Marine Legion explained. And I think I mentioned that I will check it out. And there are a lot of comments still recommending me that. And I just already know. So if I already know something or replied to a comment that has like more likes, therefore it's higher on the comment chain, I usually don't reply the second time. Don't take it personally, I just don't like repeating my answers. So yeah, that's everything. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.